The Japanese Film Festival online is still available for free for you to watch in the comfort of your own home. But starting June 19th, there has been a shift in what you can watch. The previous movies that we'd spoken about are no longer available, but they've been replaced by two classic Japanese TV shows. One of them is called Downtown Rocket, the other one is called Rikuo, and we're going to talk to you today about Downtown Rocket, which, let me tell you, was another incredible surprise. I knew nothing about the series, but apparently, when it was released in 2015, it was massive. It was based on a best selling novel called Shitamachi Rocket. And the only way I can describe it is that it is the most Japanese thing you will ever see. It centers around Kohei, who is a former researcher at the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. A rocket that he designed fails, it explodes, he takes responsibility, resigns, and then takes over the family business, which is a massive manufacturing plant. And he changes the direction of the family business because they manufacture small parts for, big machines and other big companies. And he changes the direction and he goes into R&D as well. At the beginning of this series, I say at the beginning of the series, actually within the first 15 minutes of the first episode, everything is set up. He loses his job. We find out it's 7 years later and he's running the family company. He gets sued by another company for patent infringement. He's refused more money from the bank because they think he's wasting too much on R&D. And a massive rocket manufacturer wants to buy a patent that he holds because it is the last 1% that they need to build a successful rocket to prove Japan's glory on the world stage of space exploration. All of this before you see the title screen, Downtown Rocket.
Yeah, they really get into it.
Yeah.
They really get into it.
Let me tell you, Bahir, I had no idea that, I've seen all 10 episodes, and I had no idea that a melodrama that is centered around Japanese manufacturing could be so engaging.
I'm sorry, my friend. You haven't started Rikoa, have you?
Oh, I haven't started Rikoa yet.
Oh, dude, what about a factory making traditional tabis? My friend. The other one is about a company trying to modernize the traditional Japanese tabi.
But then there is scandal.
He's trying to make what is known as marathon tabis.
Wow.
Dude, that is so good.
I'm going to have to start on that next.
The reason I brought up Ricoh is that I personally prefer Ricoh. I think Downtown Rockets got a little too much melodrama for me.
Every episode has Kohei giving some fantastic monologue to get his stuff going again. I love it. It's so good.
Don't mistake my hesitance for not enjoying this show. I enjoyed the hell out of this series. I think there is something refreshing about the way the Japanese tell stories. And I learned a lot about Japanese culture, like the way their business dealings are, like the way their relationships are, the way the relationship between contractor and client and customer and bank. And I really enjoy all of that. I enjoy how our hero is having to, or rather not having to deal with his family problems. It's really refreshing. I don't think I've seen a TV show like this ever.
I agree.
Because we're so entrenched in the American and the UK system.
Correct. I agree. And because of that, I think we're so used to the 3-act, 22-episode arc of a traditional American TV series that this one definitely feels like it's something different. It has a different narrative structure to begin with. That's one. But also, I think the political and social messaging here, and I'm not saying messaging in that it's in your face. I'm just saying that it reflects Japanese culture and society in such an interesting manner because it's showing you this mid-range company in a mid-level town and the impact that one man's dream has on its future. Because Kohei is obsessed with all of the things he's obsessed with. He's a passionate guy. He wants to build rocket parts. Not even a rocket, just rocket parts. You know what I mean? One part of one rocket, And yet, there are all of these Goliath-like characters who are trying to stomp down on his David.
Yeah.
What this show teaches you is not just the perseverance in following your dream, but also the impact that these small individual businesses have on growing the Japanese economy and society as a whole. It's like all of these people working to be all of the cogs in the machine that is Japan. Like they are just as important as the massive banks and the massive manufacturers.
Is this idea that you can't just rely on the big guys. Even the big guys have to rely on the small guys.
Yes.
Because, yeah, you may have 15,000 employees, but a 200 employee factory is the guy that can make the thing that you need to send your rocket to space.
I mean, we know a lot of this already. If we know anything about Japan or Japanese culture, if you've seen that movie, Jiro Dreams of Sushi, you understand what they're like. I will never forget the first time I watched Jiro Dreams of Sushi and I met the guy who supplies rice to Jiro. And Jiro only buys rice from him because, only he knows rice. And this guy only sells rice to Jiro. He's like, oh, I don't sell rice to people who don't understand what my rice is worth. Like, I've got to sell it to someone who knows how to cook this damn rice. And like all of those eccentricities are also on display here in a lesser manner across a variety of characters. Like you haven't seen all the episodes yet, Bahir, but even within those first 15 minutes, the amount of foreshadowing there is with regards to what happens towards the end of the series. Like even the line at the bank when the guy goes, R&D is not important. R&D has never been profitable. Like all of that kind of plays out in a very interesting way. I'm really enjoying the show. Also, I have to say, the kind of setup they do within those first 15 minutes is a masterclass in writing. Like if you want people to be immediately invested in your characters and not waste any time, like if you want them to watch episode 2, give them all of this information right up front. And it's not even just telling you the information. There's stuff happening in the background. There's a VO that's telling you certain things. There's stuff for you to watch. There's stuff for you to hear. All of it is happening at once. And then when the credits kick in and the story starts, you're already invested in these group of people.
I wasn't expecting to appreciate the Japanese form of TV serial storytelling as I did. You mentioned something just now, the VO.
Yes.
This just random voice of God setting up not just the series in episode 1, but practically every episode from that point on.
Yeah.
It is so, I don't mean this to be an insult, but it's quaint. I love it, right? There's just this voice going, in the last episode, the 3 guys didn't agree with the boss's decision and they threatened to leave. But when the client came, they all came together. I'm like, I know, I just saw it, but I love the fact that you're doing that. Also, I just love how text shows up on screen telling you who he is and what position he is. He's the president of the company. He's the general manager of whatever. But unfortunately, it's not translated in the subtitles. So I don't know what that is until he shows up 20 minutes later and someone refers to him as the president. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's what that text is. I find it really simple that you can bring in a new character and not have to do the, oh, my name is so-and-so and I am the lead sales manager of the company. You just have it in text.
But all of that is also reflected in the performances because it's rooted in Japanese culture, right? You know that when a certain person walks into the room and the way everyone in the room reacts to that person, what the stature of that individual is.
I just think that having it be on screen as a title, like his name, his position in the company, it just feels so adorable. I love it.
So this thing took Japan by storm. It was one of the most watched series when it was out in 2015. Apparently, Shinzo Abe absolutely loved the series.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he talked about how he wished he could give speeches like Kohei. And the more you watch the show, you will understand why.
Yeah.
I think it spoke to Japanese people at a very interesting time, right? In the 2015s, I think Japan was also undergoing something of a shift with regards to its position as a manufacturing hub of the world. After World War II, that's what Japan was. I mean, it was this high skill stuff that kind of rebuilt the country and pulled them out of losing the war. Meanwhile, as China was slowly beginning to usurp that position, Japan too was rethinking and relooking at its position in the world. But I think this show and the book it's based on, and also the way it concentrates on how important that work actually is. If it's done well, and if it's done in a way that nobody else can do except the Japanese, it still has an important part to play in the world. I think that was what spoke to the people of Japan at the time.
There are very few times when a show sort of does more for an audience than just entertain them for 45 minutes. I think this is a great introduction to a culture that we know nothing about. The same way, for us at least, The West Wing did that with the White House and the inner workings of the American political system. This one is a real sort of look into Japanese working culture. And although probably if there are any Japanese people out there who've worked in Japanese companies, there probably aren't that many bosses like, oh, hey, so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
There's that minor snafu. But, whatever. I think it's a great show. I find it really refreshing. I find it really, really comforting. It's a really nice, you know what it is? It's like a really good bowl of ramen.
Yes.
It's not over the top with flavors, but good God, does it hit the spot in a really nice, comforting way.
Comforting is the right word. That is what this show is. And you will learn stuff along the way. And all of these characters are absolutely fantastic, and you will fall in love with them. It's a good show. You should check out Rikuo as well. I'm going to go check that out. Downtown Rocket is showing as part of the Japanese Film Festival Online 2024. To watch the series, all you have to do is register online at the JFFO site. All they need is your full name, email address, and you're done. And then you can watch all of this stuff for free. And then you will have an account for when it comes back in 2025 with more great stuff. So check out Downtown Rocket, Japanese Film Festival Online 2024. Let us know what you think once you do. You can reach out on all of our social media feeds, Goggler MY. You can also email us on podcast@goggler.my or send us a WhatsApp on the Goggler hotline, 012-524-5208. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Goggler Podcast.